we're looking at Sorcery as a growth database. And I think that is in
Mm.
practice what an independent database really it lets an MLS achieve. It's not just front end of choice in the same market. It's really the idea that if you have a database alongside whatever the provider you've partnered with, you can then go and partner with other MLSs no matter what front end they have in a way that removes friction for growth.
Hey, everybody, it's Matt Fowler, Executive Director at the new Doorify MLS.com, formerly Triangle, with my old buddy Matt Fagioli, who helps us with our podcast. Hey, Matt.
Hey.
And our guest today is Andrew from Modern.tech. Hey, Andrew.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Andrew, I'll set this up just a little bit. We have a long-running podcast now for our subscribers where we tell them what we've been doing and special things that are happening in the industry. And Triangle has been written up a lot in the industry news this year for a big project that we did last November that we refer to as MLS Choice. Alongside that project, we have a project that we refer to as Project Jordan, Lake Jordan, because it's a data lake. And all the feeds that we have flow into that lake so that Triangle has a copy of our own data that we have like full ownership of for the first time. But to make that usable, we had to build an API, an application programming interface, or a way for programmers to look at our data in an automated way. And Andrew's company, Modern.tech, built the API for us. And their assignment was to get it to a point where we could unveil it at the Real Estate Standards Organization meeting. That's reso.org, where data geeks like me and Andrew go and argue about primary versus master bedroom and stuff like that. But all that ridiculousness gives us the ability to plug new technologies into our MLS. Andrew, tell us a little bit about that project and maybe other prop tech projects that you guys have done before that one. A little bit more about Modern.
Yeah, and speaking of the work Doorify has done, I forgot to mention before this, but big congrats to you on Executive of the Year award, Matt. That was I was getting text from Bill that night about it, and so big congrats to you before I answer your question. But that project we're doing with you, we're so excited about because when we got into the RESO API world and did it from the side of pulling data using APIs and found that under the hood, there's a lot more problems than typically advertised. That is something where the devs who work on those projects don't forget that knowledge. And so when we had our team specialize in working with those APIs, the next logical step for us was going in and building out APIs. And so with your project, going and being able to work on building of an API and having a say in how we take that data and make it a standard API and have our version of what we think it should be. That was a very exciting project for our team, and it translated pretty well actually into the expertise we've taken to other projects. I mean, you mentioned other projects, one being our subsidiary company, Sorcery. The same knowledge of building those APIs translates pretty well to that company as well as to any other clients that are building those types of APIs. But it's a very different world, pulling the API data versus building the API, but getting both sides of the coin was definitely great for our team.
Yeah, we look at that as, Matt and I have been talking about it for a couple of years. We look at that as sovereignty. Like we don't have fee simple ownership of our own data. If we don't own the instance it's sitting in and it's our checking account, that covers that cost. And like there's nobody in between it. And the visual that I've been giving to our subscribers is this Venn diagram out at certification.reso.org. And as of today, Triangle, now Doorify, I'm going to say Triangle for the rest of my life, is the only MLS in the country that has all three RESO certifications, including the new Edit certification. And when you look at like who is certified, any other MLS that you look at says the name of their vendor. Under vendor and ours, it says like parentheses, they don't have one because it's us. They certified our own data. So it's not under a contract with somebody. I think of it as being in somebody else's warehouse. It's not in somebody else's warehouse. It's in my warehouse. And we have the ability, I'm going to use an analogy that I've been using, and that is a vending machine. And our environment that Modern just helped us build is this vending machine where my subscribers can walk up to it. And previously they had Paragon as the only choice in the whole thing. And then we added Matrix and FlexMLS. So now you have a choice of three traditional MLS platforms. And what we did was open it up to products like the new AI listing manager that we're releasing early next year, where if you want an alternative way, an AI, generative AI way to create fuller, more accurate, more interesting listing together with your team in a portal, that's a product we're bringing to the market next year using the technology that Modern.tech built for us.
Matt, you skipped over something there I want to pull you back to, because I think for the Doorify brokers who are listening to this, maybe the most fundamental point is that you have control of the data, which they might not even understand why they need that, or how powerful that is, or how rare that is. But can you expand on that for just a second?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that, right, Matt? I think we see companies that we work closely with get bought all the time. Like the most recent panic was Follow Up Boss last year. And, these acquisitions occur, showing time, et cetera, and they cause general angst in the industry about, who exactly owns these data. And we believe that that's not really a question. The participants, the brokers own the data, period. We have a limited copyright over that data in order to share it with other brokers. That's the point of it. And, the idea that another company, we have to go ask permission for some commercial enterprise to do anything with our data feels like least fee, not fee simple. Also, there's the resilience part. Last summer, one of the big MLS vendors went down for a couple of months. So you had to bail, and just reload all your listings into the one in the city next door and do the best you could. And Doorify is in a condition today that exact thing couldn't happen to us because we have 3 different front ends. One of them or 2 of them is going to be up if one of them is really down. We don't have a resilient way, multiple ways to edit our listings. And the API, including the Add Edit certification that we just got from the standards organization that Modern built for us, is the first rung on the ladder to get us to a point where we would have multiple ways to update the back end, which gives us that operating resilience that we really need.
Yeah, you say sovereignty, and another nice word is stewardship. And the MLS is that sacred steward of that data that the agents are putting into the system. Yet that stewardship has been outsourced, and necessarily so from the start. But technology has gotten to the point, and acquisitions have gone to the point where it's time to take back the stewardship in-house for many MLSs. And that doesn't necessarily mean the MLSs have to have their own database exactly built by themselves or exactly build a front-end software, but having control over the data in and the data out. And like you said, I think the biggest effect of having that control is, do you have to pick up the phone? And is your destiny in the fate of somebody who can tell you that data changes in practice won't happen for another 6 to 18 months?
Yeah, providing that stability and authority. And yeah, so I guess our subscribers watching this, Matt and Andrew, we're talking about a technology company that really works primarily with big MLS organizations and associations, and built this application technology for us. And the reason I want subscribers to know about this is I've been evangelizing something I refer to as alert equity. And it's important to me that the technology people, the independent brokerages out there around the country and around the triangle know that we have this new system that can allow them to be as fast as the fastest app on the App Store for their own customers. So if you have an app from a technology provider, I'm not going to start naming them, there's a billion, but brokerage tech is a huge industry, and they use data from us. They all get the data from Doorify for the Raleigh area. And most of them, essentially all of them, get that data in an old way. And we're now publishing on our APIs the ability to get the data regularly like you normally would through the API, but also to subscribe to our data for updates. So instead of asking if there are changes every now and then, it tells you if there's been an update. So you get that alert when it happens. And we believe that we can get to sub-second alerts from us with your brand on them using the technologies that Modern helped us put in place. That's our big goal for next year.
That's incredible. Matt, Andrew, can you guys both comment a little bit too about, all the changes that you guys have worked together on in this last season, how that affects things like data sharing with other MLSs or consolidation of MLSs, which both seem to be really critical path in my opinion. But, how's all this work help that?
Let me jump in real quick, and I'd like to hear your experiences, Andrew, because I know SourceRE has some projects. I don't know if they're public yet, but there's something that's happened here. When you have this back end that Modern helped Doorify put together, it doesn't matter which MLS front end you want to use now as a member. You can use Matrix or Paragon or Flex. And that's fine for new members. They just kind of get to pick what flavor they want. But there are CoreLogic associations all around us in central North Carolina. And the members of those associations thinking about working with a regional MLS wouldn't have to change, right? So when we went out to our new partners in Alamance County, they were using Matrix and we only offered Paragon at that point. We knew we were going to be able to offer both. So we said, hey, look, would you merge with us if you didn't have to change your MLS platform? And we went from about 10% support to 90% support. People just didn't want to change. But when they heard that they could get all the benefits of the regional without having to change the software that they were using, it just flipped the whole thing. And we merged with them. And we would, of course, make that offer to anybody watching this today at a CoreLogic system that might be a little east or west or south of us, that there are economies of scale with 15,000 users in the triangle. And we're very happy to let you continue to use the MLS platform because of the scale of that technology in the background. Do you guys have any that you could talk about yet, Andrew?
There's 3 implementations we have that we should not talk about until they actually launch, or at least are in a state where they're beyond the initial phase of figuring out the politics and the mechanics. But I can speak to them pretty specifically, actually. And for those unaware, Sorcery, our subsidiary company that we formed, is an independent MLS database and API system. It's an independent database only in that it doesn't have a front-end software. It doesn't need one. It offers an API for ad edit and for distribution so that it can plug into any of the different MLS front ends and beyond. Any new front end or any brokerage who wants to build a custom ad edit interface where listings from their system go directly to the MLS database. That's what the independent database enables. And I think the biggest thing about the people I'm referring to is it's all data share implementations. And what's nice about that is we're looking at Sorcery as a growth database. And I think that is in practice what an independent database really lets an MLS achieve. It's not just front end of choice in the same market. It's really the idea that if you have a database alongside whatever the provider you've partnered with, you can then go and partner with other MLSs no matter what front end they have in a way that removes friction for growth. And the nice thing about a data share is that, in a way, depending how the data share is done, when it's all in a separate database, it removes complexity because all of those future nodes joining the data share have one point of integration, as opposed to needing to share and integrate with every disparate node in that data share. So it heavily reduces that complexity. And I think one of the nicest things about building a data share of sorts is that it enables the MLSs that are participating. And again, this depends on the types of data shares. I mean, RESO just released a white paper with all the various types of data sharing, but in the data sharing types that we're exploring, what's nice about it is that the nodes or the partners joining a data share can let the data share organization manage the data distribution and the data operations in a way where every part benefits as a sum of the whole. I mean, there's more data being distributed as a total, and so that data is worth more with economy of scale. And by unifying things like business rules and the licensure and the APIs themselves into one system, you almost achieve a form of consolidation of sorts of that data operation. But what you don't do is you don't force the MLSs to fully consolidate, lose their local presence, their brands, lose their CEOs. So everyone wins in that scenario. And I think that's probably the most special part about it.
Yeah, it's a technical solution to something that people have been trying to accomplish it with institutional reorganization. The headwinds to institutional reorganization, merging boards or, changing the governance, all the offices and the CEOs, as you said. There's a lot there. There's a lot of legacy, just leases and commitments and employment contracts and all that stuff. And that's hard to drag forward, but it's super easy to sit something on top of it and solve problems where we can. And we absolutely should be making things easier where we can make things easier. I think this is something that we were talking about before the call, and it's something that I think Modern can offer any MLS organization, certainly the ones we're the 33rd largest in the country. So we have 15,000 subscribers. I've got 20 something employees. So that's the scale of our organization. We're pretty big, is what I'm saying. And smaller than that, most organizations, there's like 522, I think, in the RESO list, and we're 33rd. I don't know, the bottom 200, right, are going to have a hard time. They probably have one or one and a half staff people, and they're probably not a database engineer, right? So they're going to need to know that sovereignty is valuable, that they need, they need that level of control, that their vendors will behave better if they have some stability, right? And some capability on staff. Like all those MLSs in the middle who probably, are aware of these things and maybe have some projects started. If those projects are entirely within one of the vendors, you miss the point. And you need to reach out to an organization like Andrew's, or somebody who's going to take the role of technology architect. If we're in real estate and we don't have a lot of time, so we can use a metaphor. If you look at something that was designed and built by a builder, you can tell, okay? Designed and built by an architect looks different than designed and built by a builder. And you want the architect one if you want to have a place where you really want to live, right? That has really thought that through. So an architect from a tech perspective is that guy who's going to give you the 60,000 foot view to let you know how to deploy those contractors or even how to approach your vendor. I got to be part of the CMLS best practices document white paper that we put together. And for most of those MLSs in the middle, I've got a full-time programmer. They're not going to have that guy on staff. They're going to have their MLS sales rep who's, their everything. What I would suggest for those people after the success that we've seen with our relationship with Modern, building our new choice platform, is to spend some of that budget for 2025 on the architect to come in and take a look at it. I think that's true at the broker level too. I know you guys are thinking about some kind of way to get your services out to the mid-sized brokers anyway. It'd be kind of expensive for a little bitty shop to do a tech inventory. But if you want to invest in the future and you want to be part of those people that are going to be on my subscriber list 3 years from now, I think it's the people that are investing in automation. And in order for your brand.com to be as fast as the fastest app on the App Store, your tech stack's going to need to know what an API is, what a webhook is, what RESO is. And if that's Greek, you need to reach out to me and to Andrew for some consultation.
Matt, I think what's cool though is that Doorify and Modern have sort of broken the 4-minute mile on this and, laid out what it looks like for a lot of those other MLSs to, I think, do it with relative ease compared to, what the last little season has looked like for you guys, maybe.
We did share a really great white paper at the RESO website about how automation leads to choice. And that's got all of the pain and suffering in that document too. We're just trying to knowledge share, and tell people, like, don't manage images the way we did during the conversion. Don't anyone else, no one do that. We would not recommend it. But we learned, and we're trying to share that with the industry. And here we are now with a great position, and we're being recognized for it in the industry. That's great. I really feel that award belongs to, my entire staff and my board and everybody who said, yeah, let's go do that, because they let me go run that race that we won, which is cool.
Yeah. And thanks, by the way, Matt. I think one of the big things with somebody in the scenario where they need technology expertise is that often they need a varying degree from high level expertise to low level implementation. And that could mean fractional CTO. But the funny thing is, it could also mean fractional CIO or CPO or fractional director of engineering or director of product or systems architect, or it could just be that they need some dev help for an API. But I think the biggest thing is that Modern covers from the highest level to the lowest level what is needed for an effective technology organization. And you don't just often need one of those roles, you often need a harmony between some of those roles from the top to the bottom. And so when somebody comes to us, we typically, every engagement is fully custom in that we're not going to treat any one size fit all to anyone's problem, because at least most of the time they're going to be very unique, or they're going to require us to put a different person to speak to them and then a different person to actually do some of the work. And internally, we sort that all out.
Yeah, sure. I can appreciate that there's a discovery process, Andrew. I know Joe Schneider was from Modern, got to attend our strategic planning session last Friday. Joe was a former strategic planning expert at NA, and what you just talked about is strategic planning. It's more than just an architect saying how you should build a thing. You have to decide what you need before you decide what you need to build. Where you're going, what kind of people are going to be in that room, and that's critically important. So I think if you're an MLS and you don't have a strategic plan that any staff member could repeat if you stopped them in the hall, then you actually don't have a plan that lives in your organization. It does start with that. It's more holistic. I could continue to zoom in on the tech solutions, but it's a lot more than that, especially when we're going into an MLS that doesn't have compensation. Many states are opening up to licensed brokers who aren't members of NAR. That's old news in half the country, but it's brand new in North Carolina. And if you've only worked in North Carolina your whole real estate career, that's a paradigm shift in how buyer agents represent themselves and how associations make their value proposition clear. Membership is different. Participation in the real estate community is different as a realtor member versus a licensed sales agent. And a choice is a thing. We don't want to compel anyone to do anything except get a license. You have to have a license. But beyond that, we have all these kind of choices that people can make. And we want to fully inform people what it means to be one and the other. There's not really a best practice so much. It's just kind of what fits your own needs as a business. And our goal is to support that. I want to thank you, Andrew, for coming out and joining us today. I wanted to tell our subscribers about the tech company that built the vending machine metaphor that I use all the time. That actually really works because products have to be standardized. They have to fit in the little 3x5 slot, and they can't be wider than that. And they have to be accessible through a little door you put your hand in, and they have to be shelf safe. This kind of standards metaphor works. And you guys were able to build that machine for us that we're going to now take out to the marketplace. It's a novel way to deliver MLS services. It's not completely unique, but it is a novel way, and we'll see how this catches on over 2025.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It was an honor to be able to partner with you in doing that, and I'm so thrilled that it's worked the way it has. So congratulations as well, and thank you again.
Yeah, and I guess at some point here at the end, I have to full disclosure mention that the Source RE company that spun off is led by my brother, Bill, who he and I worked together for a long time. And he was at Zillow and Compass and Dotloop, and he's been all over the industry. So he's got a ton of experience, after he left my company. But now he's landed with you guys and is kind of taking the sovereignty project that Doorify and a few other places out there in the country have done and trying to package that for MLSs that might not have the big staff that Doorify does. That makes a lot of sense to me. Just making sure everybody understands that where those lines are. And Bill has not paid me, for the record, for anything that I can remember. But I don't think he's gotten lunch, honestly, since we've gotten together. So full disclosure, not a paid endorsement.
After the lunch part, he's definitely
there you go.
Bought me a lunch. So I might have one up on you, Matt. But
of course. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome, guys. See ya.
guys.